ludicrous speed.
That's how fast the show's going to go.
So what is that little thing that you keep playing?
That is a bite from Spaceballs when they're going to ludicrous speed in pursuit. And the reason I have it is because they announced ludicrous mode for the Tesla.
Oh, did they? I didn't see
You
that.
should listen. There's the show, Daily Tech News Show, where they talk about that stuff. That's where I heard about it. You should check it out.
Did we talk about it last day?
I want to, like Thursday or Friday? I think Friday, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, maybe I was listening without paying attention.
Yeah,
which
probably just went right past you. All right, let's do the secret audio version of this show. Here we go.
Welcome aboard the Daily Tech News Show. Please keep your earbuds in at all times. If, throughout the show, you feel the need to contribute, go to patreon.com/acedetect. Now, please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, July 21st, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Patrick Beja, official DTNS contributor and official independent podcaster de Paris.
I like the way you're saying that. Although I have to say I was taken aback a little bit because you started the show without asking if I was ready first. So I'm not sure I am, and you're changing up my routine, Tom.
Well, I would assume that all I would hear is...
I was born ready.
And so...
That is correct.
I assume that you're still born ready, and that hasn't changed.
That's true. You got me, Merritt.
It's a permanent state. All right. We are going to talk about something. We got some great feedback from folks on Twitter and Google+, so thank you for that. We're going to talk about something that Nilay Patel kicked off on The Verge later today. Is the mobile web actually useless? That's going to be our main discussion, but let's start off with some headlines. People of St. Louis County, on the same highway you take to Forest Park, the Galleria, Frontenac Plaza, and Chesterfield Mall, hackers disabled a Jeep Cherokee driven by Wired reporter Andy Greenberg, killing the transmission and changing the channel to hip-hop. This happened on Interstate 64.
When you said killing the transmission, I really had a gasp there. You said killing a little bit.
The transmission, but the kicker is... they changed the channel to hip-hop on it. Charlie Miller and Chris Velasek were 10 miles away demonstrating a wireless exploit that they will discuss at Black Hat. The exploit allows them to engage or disable brakes, kill the engine, and more. It works by finding the IP address of the car through Chrysler's Uconnect service, and they have a special way that they do that, rewriting the firmware of the entertainment system's chip, making it capable of sending commands to the car's internal network, what they call the CAN bus, if you know that sort of thing. That's the part they're not going to tell people how they did. They also responsibly disclosed this to Chrysler, and Chrysler has issued a patch for the hack as of July 16th. So if you are driving a Chrysler with Uconnect, you should go to your dealer or get it on a USB stick and update your car as soon as possible. Patrick, this is disconcerting to say the least, right?
I don't think we've heard about this specific type of hack before, right? I don't think anyone has been able to take control of some of the essential systems of a car remotely in that way before.
No, I think the only thing that was able to be done wirelessly was unlocking the doors. There have been hacks demonstrated for that. But all of these other sorts of things like controlling the transmission and the brakes, they have been demonstrated, but only when wired in. And the car companies kind of poo-pooed that and dismissed it like, well, yeah, but you have to be wired into the car. You know, you got bigger problems if a hacker's sitting in your car with their laptop plugged in. And now... these two security researchers, Charlie Miller and Chris Velasek, are saying, okay, you didn't take us seriously before, so we stepped up to the challenge, and now we've showed that you really need better security in your cars. Pay attention, car makers.
And what's really frightening to me is that we know, and I think we've seen demonstrated over the years, that the governments often have access to these kinds of exploits way before the civil society, or often have access to these types of hacks before civil society finds them out. So is it reasonable to think that government agencies might have been using these types of things to provoke accidents, maybe, you know, in those James Bond type movies scenarios?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I was with you. I was like, it's not unreasonable to suspect that the government might use this for tracking. I wasn't thinking about, you know, making a car flip over. But maybe it's a small percentage, but that could be a possibility, right?
I mean, honestly,
when you look at the hacking team dump and you see that the hacking team had all manner of vulnerabilities that were not public knowledge, it makes you wonder.
You know, since the Snowden leaks, I think I've taken as a rule to never put anything out of the realm of possibility. And also, maybe it's because I've been watching The Americans, the TV show, which is a spy TV show.
And here's the thing. Here's the reason that my brain doesn't go there is I assume that you need to have as much security as possible at all times because you don't know what the bad actors, whether it's a government or a private team or an advanced persistent threat, you don't know what they're capable of. So you shouldn't assume because you haven't heard of something that it couldn't exist. And so it's always a balance of what do I think the possibilities are that someone will come after this particular system, and what should I do in response to that? As an individual, you have to realize, you know, you have to take stock of yourself and say, okay, how likely is it that somebody's really going to hack into my laptop and turn the camera on me, and do I want to take measures about that? If you're a car maker, though, all you need is one instance of this to happen, and you're in deep trouble. So you want to lock that down now. It is not worth your money savings not to prevent this sort of thing from happening.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to Twitter that removed wallpaper images from its web users' timelines and notification page Monday, according to The Verge. Wallpaper can still be seen on individual tweet pages, list pages, and collections pages. Twitter has not given a reason for the change.
I mean, do you think Twitter's just baiting the internet at this point? Like, well, we're going to pull off your profiles. We're going to see how much rage can we cause. Because there are some people very upset about this. I don't know where on the rage scale it's reached yet.
Honestly, you will find people angry about anything. So I don't know that this is actually an issue. But yeah. Again, we could discuss this at length. I wasn't a huge fan of those wallpapers, but it does make the pages look a little bit barren now. So maybe they have an alternative coming.
Maybe there's another shoe going to drop. Maybe it's all going to be shoe wallpaper. Who knows? Engadget passes an inside sources report along that Google, Facebook, eBay, Dell, HP, and other tech companies submitted a friend of the court brief, an amicus brief, July 1st, supporting Samsung in their case against Apple. They're defending themselves against Apple, actually. Apple won a $1 billion award for Samsung's infringement of several patents, including tap-to-zoom and single-finger scrolling, among others. The Court of Appeals lowered that $1 billion amount, if you remember, to $548 million earlier this year, but it's still based on the total profits made off of the infringing devices. And the brief argues that basing the award on total profits of an infringing device doesn't make sense, since the infringements were only a part of the device.
GeekWire cites the Wall Street Journal report that Audi, BMW, and Daimler AG are about to pull the trigger on their team purchase of Nokia's HERE digital mapping service. The journal claims Uber dropped out of the bidding weeks ago. Meanwhile, Recode claims its sources say Nokia will announce a virtual reality project at a VIP event in Los Angeles next week. And to that, the question becomes, who is not announcing a virtual reality project these days? I mean,
yeah, seriously. I would now Uber is going to announce a virtual reality project because they've got all this money saved from not buying Nokia HERE. Yeah, it was most interesting to me that Uber dropped out of the bidding because I thought that was a really interesting acquisition for them. Although it makes sense for the car companies to want to buy this as well. I kind of wish Nokia would hold on to it. I don't know why. That's sort of an irrational wish. But I'm kind of rooting for Nokia a little bit as an underdog, and it's such a good product for them to have. But I guess they can only keep so much, and they've got to pay for this virtual reality project now.
Yeah, it seems like, if it's a joint purchase by Audi, BMW, and Daimler, the price is probably, or I would assume the price is what drove Uber out of the bidding process. And as much as I think it would be interesting for Nokia to keep the Here service, I'm not sure it fits with their strategy. So would they rather have a cool, critically acclaimed Here mapping service, or a huge bag of money that they can do other stuff with?
And focus on design of
On
things
their
like
core.
virtual reality and handsets. And yeah, no, you're right. That makes sense. And by the way, Audi, BMW, and Daimler said have apparently, again, and this is all according to sources, will allow others to buy in after the acquisition. So they're looking for more partners as well. Fortune notes that the Wall Street Journal, everybody's getting their stuff from the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal says Apple has hired Doug Betts, former head of global quality at Fiat Chrysler. It's the latest in a string of high-quality auto experts that Apple has hired. Wall Street Journal believes a secret project, codenamed Titan, is an Apple-branded electric car. And they keep hiring car experts, so it gives some validity that Apple's definitely doing something with cars. Project Titan, Patrick, I know you can't comment on it. Oh, wait, that was the other Project Titan. What do you think? I mean, I have been a skeptic about Apple actually creating a car. I'm like, they're going to create an in-car system. I don't know that Apple actually has decided what they want to do yet either, but they certainly are bringing enough people to create a lot of the parts of a car, even if it's not an entire car itself.
I would say that we're starting to get into there's not smoke without fire territory, kind of. We're on the verge of that. So it seems pretty clear now that they're definitely doing something that has to do with cars. A whole car? I'm a big Apple fan. I'm not seeing it, but who knows? I mean, everyone says, well, you weren't expecting them to do a phone back when they announced the iPhone, but I think it makes more sense for a computer company to create a phone because phones were becoming computers. I'm not sure that it translates that well into cars, even though they are getting more and more like computers. I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Well, and I think there's a path forward there, which is they didn't create the phone, right? They hired Foxconn to create the phone they designed. Maybe that's what they're up to. Not quite as 100% design as the phone was, where they just handed it over and said, please manufacture it. Maybe what they're wanting to do is say, okay, car companies, who wants to make our car? We have a design, and we know beyond telematics and stuff, you can make sort of the baser parts of the car that makes it run like the combustion engine, et cetera, or if it's an electric, maybe. But they partner up with a car manufacturer to make an Apple car. That would make sense to me.
I'm still skeptical, but we'll see. Fortune reports that around 24 tech companies, led by Google, launched the Cloud Native Computing Foundation Tuesday. The foundation centers around the use of Google Kubernetes. Is that how you pronounced it? We checked before the show, and I already forgot.
Someone who was showing this off on stage said Kubernetes. So
Kubernetes. All right, let's go with that. So the Google Kubernetes system for scheduling application containers on a large scale. IBM, Intel, VMware, Cisco, Docker, and more are part of the foundation. Amazon and Microsoft are not. Kubernetes 1.0 is to be released at OSCON in Portland this week.
Open Source Con. So this is Google, trying to be a good citizen, going open source, and taking on Azure and Amazon Web Services all in the process. And containers are the hottest right now. Everybody's all about the containers. TechCrunch reports a study from the Mobile Association of India and KPMG estimates there will be 500 million internet users in India by 2017. Currently, there are 350 million internet users. India has a population of around 1.25 billion. Inexpensive smartphones and affordable 2G and expanded 3G service are going to drive the growth, according to the survey. India is second behind China in the total number of internet users in the world, but with only a penetration of 19%. So there's room for them to grow and grow big.
BizTech Africa reports Africa's biggest lender, Standard Bank, has expanded instant money payments to Botswana and Uganda as it rolls out the service across the continent. Instant money lets customers send cash to anyone by text message. The recipient, who doesn't need to be a bank customer, uses an access code and PIN to withdraw money from a Standard Bank ATM.
It's different than what you often hear about with M-Pesa, where you're just transferring it into accounts using the phone. This one actually lets you go to an ATM and draw out cash, and it's been very popular in South Africa, from what I've heard.
Yeah, that aspect of it, the fact that you don't even need a bank account, is really key.
The next web report's Sonovation announced its method of putting ultrasonic biometric sensors under Gorilla Glass. I think they're even bonded to the glass. In other words, your whole screen can be a fingerprint reader. So when will we see this show up in phones, Sonovation? Oh, hey, did they mention it works with wet and dirty fingers? And then they ran out of the room. They didn't want to give us a release date yet. It's really cool if this actually works in practice.
Yeah, I think it would be really nice to get rid of the bevel on the phones so that, everything works on the screen. It's just a screen, and then it becomes just a piece of paper, and then you can fold it and put it in your tiny lighter pocket of your jeans. Am I seeing too far there?
No.
Right.
No, I like your vision, actually.
It is Battlestar Galactica's, sequel vision, but
yeah. We got earnings, man. We got earnings all over the place. Apple shared its Q3 2015 earnings results, reporting revenue of $49 billion and $10.7 billion in profit during the last quarter. This is the first quarter to include Apple Watch sales. Revenue was $49.6 billion versus the $49.4 billion expected. Earnings per share was $1.85, up 45%. Analysts had expected $1.81. Did they say how many Apple Watches sold? Sort of. iPhone units sold 47.5 million. They expected 48.8, so it's a little bit short. Other revenue, which does include the first Apple Watch, had sales of 2.64 billion, up from 1.77 billion a year ago when Apple did not include the watch, or Beats was not part of the company at that point. So some of that's headphones, some of that's watches. iPad units, 10.9 million versus 10.9 million expected. Mac units, they expected 4.9 million, got 4.8 million. They expected 51.06 billion in revenue, and they got 49 billion. Apple stock's down 7% after hours trading. Also, Microsoft reported revenue of 22.2 billion and adjusted earnings per share of 62 cents. Analysts reported 56 cents a share and revenue of 22.06 billion. Windows income fell 22% year over year. We're right before the Windows 10 release, so that's not unexpected. Office 365 subscribers rose by 2.8 million, and commercial cloud revenue grew 88% year over year. Microsoft Surface revenue was up 117% year over year.
So I did a little bit of math-foo very quickly, which is very inaccurate, but let's have fun anyway. If that Apple reports that includes, the 2.64 billion in other revenue, let's say it was up 1 billion from last year. And let's say that billion is exclusively Apple Watches. And let's say that all of that billion is the cheapest version of the Apple Watch possible. That brings us up to the grand amount of 2.5 million watches sold. And that's the most generous you can get.
Yeah, that's the most. They didn't sell 2.5 million because there's headphones in there, right?
Exactly.
And they probably sold some that were more expensive, which brings down the average. So
exactly.
2.5 million is above what the most they possibly could have sold in this quarter. That's a useful number.
Supposedly, if, it might be that the 2.64 billion is entirely composed of Apple Watches. It's very unlikely, but 2.5 million, it doesn't seem like a lot of watches to be sold. Well, it
depends on where you stand. It is the first generation, too. I'm not going to be too hard.
Excuses are starting to come out.
I'm not making an excuse because I don't care whether it sells. I don't really like the watch, but I'm just trying to be fair and say it's a first-generation product. That doesn't mean it will be a flop in the future if it didn't sell that many right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I love our subreddit. I don't know if I told you that enough, subredditors. The folks who maintain it, the folks who submit links, the folks who vote, you are the best. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You've heard several stories already that were submitted in our subreddit, like the one about the hacking of the Jeep, for instance. starfuryzeta sent us the news that Toshiba CEO Hisao Tanaka is resigning because the company overstated profit by $1.2 billion over 6 years and got caught. Gizmodo reports that a team of financial investigators discovered a corporate culture in which one could not go against the wishes of superiors. Quote from the story: when top management presented challenges, division presidents, line managers, and employees below them continually carried out inappropriate accounting practices to meet targets in line with the wishes of their superiors. Toshiba's vice chairman, Norio Sasaki, has also resigned.
mfisrael sent us the news that the Smithsonian Institute has launched a Kickstarter to bring Neil Armstrong's spacesuit back to the National Air and Space Museum in time for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing in 2019. The suit is currently in a climate-controlled storage area because it is extremely fragile. The suit will require conservation to stop detonation and a state-of-the-art display case. And no, the US federal budget doesn't cover this. So far, the Kickstarter has raised almost half of its $500,000 goal with 28 days to go. There's a ton more detail about the conservation and digitization work, so go there if you want to check it out.
And your Kickstarter amount minus the fair market value of your reward is tax deductible as well. And that's a look at the headlines. So, Verge editor-in-chief Nilay Patel has a column called "The Mobile Web Sucks," and I'm inclined to agree. He's probably, from what I gather here, motivated by this idea of Facebook instant articles, an attempt to bring down the 8-second load time of news pages, and Apple News, which is an attempt to bypass the browser and bring news directly to you. And I think as a publisher of The Verge, he's frustrated with the fact that, hey, you know what? It's hard enough to make the site work well on the web, and now we're going to have to make it work well for Facebook and for Apple and whoever else comes down the line. This is not the way it's supposed to work. He writes, incompatible proprietary publishing systems entirely under the control of huge corporations, neither of which particularly understands publishing or the media, are part of the problem. This caught your eye, Patrick. What particularly about this turned your head?
Well, I think he put his finger on something that at least I personally have been feeling for a while now, and I'm wondering if it's it might apparently be a more generalized feeling for people using their browser on their phone, which is we have a problem with the mobile web and app duality. I know you're fond, Tom, of saying that things swing back and forth, and currently apps have sort of a better usability rating, let's say, than the web, but it will come back and things change. But the reality is the mobile web kind of sucks, like seriously sucks. If you basically have a couple of options. Either you go to a mobile specialized website, and most of the time the experience is terrible because it looks bad. It looks like it was designed, for the initial smartphones back 7 or 6-7 years ago, or
designed in the spare time that people had after they made their app, right?
Yeah,
because they're like, oh right, we should do a mobile site too, I guess.
And then if you're on an iPhone, you get the invite to download the app, possibly with a pop-up, and then you get the ads that cover up the entire screen. It is a terrible experience. And I think this does do harm to the ecosystem, because even though you do have the kind of a solution with apps, it is very impractical to have an app per publication, or apps are good for some things. I don't think they're good for everything. And this is an issue, and I'm not sure exactly how we are fixing it. He does mention Facebook instant article and Apple News, as you said, but these are hindrances to the web designers and sites' ability to be present everywhere, but they are more symptoms of the fact that websites just don't work well on mobile devices. And it's weird that apps do work and websites don't work, because in theory the web is now so flexible that you could do almost anything on a website. So why not mimic what you're doing on the app? I don't know why it doesn't work.
Well, he seems to point to a theory, which I think has some validity, that the platform makers are dissuading folks from developing on the web, maybe even unintentionally, by keeping their browsers limited. Now, the worst example is the iPhone, right? Apple only allows the Safari engine, its own browser engine. I don't think it's called the Safari engine, but it only allows its own browser engine on the phone.
WebKit, right?
Yeah, it's a WebKit-based engine. That's it. You want to make a browser for the iPhone, you're basically making a reskinned Safari. And that absolutely limits the platform. If that were the case on desktop, we would not have the robust web browser situation that we have now. Google does allow other people to make browsers, but it's not much better. It is for various reasons, and Nilay sort of suggests that maybe Mozilla is a little starstruck by the Google revenue it gets, although remember, it did switch to Yahoo as the default search engine recently, that it's not really willing to take on Android. But I think the fact that Chrome is the default browser on Android and everyone's using apps means that if browser developers just aren't seeing the percentage in trying to unseat Chrome, especially when they can't really unseat Safari anyway, so they'd only have to be banking on one platform. And I still believe that this is the bottom of the pendulum in the app versus browser swing, and Nilay is one of the voices that's going to get us to swing back to say, wait a minute, why is it that on a desktop everybody uses the browser? And the browser works great. And a lot of people spend most of their time in the browser. And we don't use apps on the desktop unless we have a very specific purpose, like Photoshop or something like that. Whereas on the phone, it's the opposite. We spend all of our time in apps. And I asked people on Twitter and I asked people on Google Plus about this. Everyone but one person, maybe two or three, said that they spent most of their time in the browser on the desktop and most of their time in apps on mobile devices. Bill Meeks, who's a friend of the show, said, I do mostly work on desktop, and the only app I really use on my phone is Tweetcaster. So he's got a unique situation. He does work on the desktop, and the work he does is not browser-based work. So he's going to be the exception to the rule. But most people, because the browser is so good on the desktop, spend all their time there, and because it's so bad on mobile, spend all their time in apps.
You know, I think that people are used to the idea that browsers suck on well, not suck, but are less pleasant to use on phones because it's just phones. They're not, you don't expect that kind of device to have the power necessary to run a fast browser, but we've realized with the release of the iPhone 6, and that's the device he quotes and he mentions in his article. I'm sure other Android devices are comparable. The iPhone 6 Plus, which is the fastest iPhone available, is comparable in benchmarks to an 11-inch MacBook Air from 2012. That's just, that's insane. That's 3 years ago. So they should have enough horsepower to design an experience that is at least, I don't know if it's the speed, really, but it certainly plays into it. One question I have, though, is have you ever used other devices like the ones that are based on a web browser? I'm thinking about the Mozilla OS, which might be installed on cheaper devices, so maybe that's not comparable. But I don't think any web browser on the phone is satisfactory in any way. So I don't know. Are we living in an era that is similar to the pre-Chrome era on the desktop? If people don't remember, I think it was maybe 5 years ago, the browser wars had sort of come to a stalemate. I think it's fair to say that Mozilla had become kind of lazy. They were
maybe some inertia, right? They weren't pushing out the features as fast. Maybe they were getting distracted with side projects. Who knows?
And Google arrived in that field with Chrome, and all of a sudden everyone woke up and the web got pleasant to use again. How likely do you think it is we are on the verge of a similar event for phones? Because they're much more closed platforms, both of them. The dominant ones.
Well, yeah, and there are a lot of voices. It's not just Nilay Patel. There are a lot of voices out there saying we need better browser-based materials. And Google itself makes Chrome OS, right? An OS that is entirely a browser. And so they are at once the best example of what you can do to be like, hey, you know what? These mobile laptops can just use a browser essentially as their operating system. This is the dream of Netscape Constellation from the 90s. It has arrived. It is here. You don't even need an operating system anymore. And at the same time, on Android, they've got a lot of efforts. So far, they haven't had a lot of result. We don't see a lot of competing browsers on Android. And that is really the big problem here, is that we don't have a browser ecosystem, and you can't have a browser ecosystem on iOS. And I think people are starting to notice that, and they're starting to put pressure on that. And hopefully that pressure will start to build, and we'll see maybe some competing efforts start to take hold on Android. We'll see maybe Apple starting to feel some pressure. Who knows if they'll actually allow a competing browser engine? That'll be the day, right? Pigs fly, etc. But designers are understanding the limits of the app system now. It was really fun. It was really neat. It made a lot of people a lot of money. But now there are things you just can't do when you've siloed everything off. And that's why I think it will swing back.
So another more controversial question maybe, how much do you think this is due not to the web or to the browsers, but simply to the form factor of phones that just don't allow for a good experience on the web?
Yeah, I think that was the original thing, right? I'm sure that's why the iPhone started with, we're only going to have one engine because that's simple. We know, and I think the idea, because if you remember, the first generation of the iPhone had no apps, and Steve Jobs said, "Well, you'll make apps on the web." Exactly. I think the idea was like to make it easy to develop apps for the web. You only give one browser. The problem is when you only have one browser, suddenly you're limited in what you can do on that browser. And if that browser is not being developed by the company in order to facilitate better web apps because they're making so much money off their app store, well, you have a problem. So I guess, you know what, you're pointing out another solution, which would be for Apple to pour some money into developing the browser on iOS and make it easier to make web apps. And please make them standards compliant so they will run well on Chrome on Android as well.
So wait, let me ask you the question a different way then. Have you ever used a mobile website that you are extremely satisfied with?
The Financial Times.
Okay, well, that's one.
Yeah, and in fact, the Financial Times is doing really well because when Apple decided that if you wanted to have a subscriber in your app, you had to share the money, the Financial Times said, great, we're just going to make a web app. And they made a kick-ass web app that you can download and pin to your iOS home screen, and it works indistinguishably from an actual app. The only difficulty is you have to be interested in the Financial Times, and you have to be willing to pay them for it because they have a paywall.
So I guess the lesson of this discussion is, please help us, Financial Times. You're our only hope.
Or somebody, yeah. Take a look at what they're doing. I think as more companies start to realize that, wow, you know, like having to develop a separate piece of content for Facebook and a separate piece of content for Apple News and a separate piece of content for our app and a separate piece of content for the desktop browser is just not efficient. And we already have a system out there in HTML5 that could solve a lot, maybe not all, but a lot of these problems.
I'm seeing anecdotally a lot more people in the content industry getting away from apps and making sure that their website is rock solid on all formats. So
yeah, no, that's good. It's a good trend. Hey, real quickly before we get to the pick of the day, I know this weekend you were watching the Evo 2015 fighting game esports tournament, and there was a kind of an amazing moment that you were talking about.
So the Evo, if you allow me, dear audience, for a very quick esports report, this incredible tournament held every year by the Shoryuken Association is called the Evolution, and so for short it's Evo 2015 this year. And there was one moment I really wanted to report on, and I'm going to try to do a dramatic reading of my report, so excuse the grandiose accents and tone. So picture the stage. We're at the semifinals of the biggest tournament of the year, and Woshige is fighting Ogawa, the undisputed super champion of this game, Guilty Gear Xrd. Are you playing music with it?
Yeah, I'm giving you a little sports music underneath.
So this is just one of the games there, but Guilty Gear Xrd is having their semifinal. And in a grueling battle where none can gain a significant advantage, they fight their way to the final match. It doesn't start well for Woshige. His enemy snags the first round. And this is the final match, remember? The one who wins everything. But in a superhuman effort, Woshige manages to win the next one. Woshige jumps from his chair. He waves his arms around. He's won! But wait, what? It takes a handful of seconds for him to realize what you, dear listener, already understand. This is, of course, a best-of-3 match, and Woshige has only won the second round. He gets it, turns around in terror, and rushes back to his joystick. But it's too late. At this level of play, mercy is a luxury no player can afford, and Ogawa revels in his justified cruelty. The round is almost over before it has even started. Seizing the opportunity, the monster destroys 2/3 of his enemy's life bar in the blink of an eye, and Woshige watches helplessly as his chances vanish into pixelated smoke. It's over, and it's Ogawa's turn to jump out of his chair and wave his arms around. He's won the semi-final for real this time.
790 Dragon Sports Talk Radio.
Yeah, that really happened. The guy thought he had won 2 and he'd only won 1.
It was terrible. He jumped out of his chair a round before the winning, and he realized it. And of course, you see his eyes, and that you have to hear the commentators seeing what's happening and screaming at the top of their lungs, "No, Woshige, what are you doing?" And he jumps back, and Ogawa has completely demolished him before he can do it. So it's funny because I think you see these kinds of things happening when players get cocky in quote-unquote real sports all the time. And the fact that it happens in esports as well, and that people get the same kinds of reaction and excitement almost legitimizes esports as a real sport, and it's happening more and more, not the mess-ups. But so it was a fun moment, and the EVO Championship in general was excellent. So.
All right, we're going to get to our pick of the day. Patrick's got a good one, but people responded with their own favorites regarding syncing, which was our pick of the day yesterday. Andrew in Leafy London recommends Syncovery for manual sync, automatic syncing, network syncing, even binary syncing, where the ability is to check every bit or byte of every affected file to ensure an accurate copy. Alan from Redmond, Washington, is a road warrior and moves his desktop to a folder in his Microsoft OneDrive environment. And he adds, I would use this solution even if I didn't work for the giant software company that I work for. Okay, good disclosure, Alan. And then Steve and OC seconded SyncThing, yesterday's pick, and noted that you can use the web GUI on any platform. So if you're not on Windows, you can still get a nice graphic user interface for that. What is your pick today, Patrick?
In the spirit of gaming, I'm picking a game which I just started playing today, and that is in equal parts ridiculous and fun. The game is called Rocket League, and it's available on Steam for $20, but it's also available on the PlayStation Network's PS Plus service, which is a yearly subscription service, but you get it for free this month if you are a subscriber to that service. And it's a very easy game to dismiss because it's completely idiotic, but trust me, it's super fun. Just to set the stage again, it is rocket-powered cars playing soccer.
What's not to love? That's right up there with dinosaurs on a spaceship as far as amazing concepts.
There you go. And it is silly fun, stupid fun, and ridiculous. I highly recommend it. At least if you're a PS Plus subscriber and you haven't given it a second look, give it a second and a third look. You'll have fun.
All right, we got a voicemail from Rico regarding the plastic roads with the built-in conduits for things like fiber. Here's what he has to say.
Hi, DTNS crew. This is Rico Trevisan calling from weirdly sunny Belgium. I'm just kind of relating to the story about Volker Wessels rolling out their brand new, let's say, road technology and how it can easily pass cables underneath it. And I would imagine they have a strong interest in that because They were one of the founding members of the Dutch Open Access Network, Reggae Fiber. So these are the guys who redid and upgraded the last mile infrastructure for the Netherlands, putting fiber, bringing more competition to the market by allowing wholesale internet service providers to use the last mile, and then a lot of course, retail service providers came in and gave a lot of customers a lot of choice, a lot of options, lower prices, better quality, all of the things we don't have in Belgium, where we're stuck with our monopolies. All right, love the show. Keep rocking.
A little bitterness about Belgium there, but good information. I didn't realize it was the same company who they have a lot of experience trying to roll out fiber into asphalt roads and thought of a better way. That's really cool. We got several emails from folks about Microsoft starting something called metered connection setting in Windows 8. Remember, we had the Nigerian IT guy who wrote in yesterday saying this is a problem if you can't turn off Windows updates if you're on a metered connection. And several people said you can turn on a setting that flags any wireless connection, whether it's a cellular connection or just Wi-Fi. You can turn that setting on and say, I'm on a metered connection, and it will do several things, including holding Windows updates for your approval. The setting, it does exist in Windows 10. Travis D, aka Indie D lists, helps clients set it up often when they're on cell data for their laptops and tablets. It says it stops Windows services from downloading without being approved. If a wireless network is set as a metered connection, then any app that relies on an internet connection to update or display info might be limited in the amount of data it can download or display. Windows updates won't automatically download over a metered connection where charges may apply, and apps downloading from the Windows Store might be paused. Start screen and start menu live tiles might stop updating. Offline files might not sync automatically, and Ethernet network connections cannot be set to metered. So if you plug it into an Ethernet connection, all bets are off. But that is something to keep in mind. If you're on a metered connection, you want to turn that flag on. It will sometimes. The API will actually sometimes automatically register. Oh, you're on Airtel. You're on Tigo. We know that that's a metered connection, so we're gonna turn this flag on. But you can do it yourself as well, and it's probably something wise to do on Wi-Fi. Brian pointed out a Verge article from March 15th that showed a new option in Windows 10 that allowed users to enable updates from more than one place, essentially peer-to-peer updating of Windows 10. And we had another emailer say that Microsoft is working hard to solve driver issues, and there's a hiding-unhiding tool that was released recently that'll let you hide a bad or worse driver than the one you installed yourself so that it won't get updated. So there are a few things that Microsoft is putting out there to help people deal with this automatic updating.
All of this is very clever, and it brings me to the question that I think we are all thinking right now, which is, has Microsoft thought of everything?
No.
Really, they seem to have everything laid out so cleverly. Honestly, it keeps surprising me how on point. Of course, they haven't.
They have thought of a lot. You're right.
But
no,
yeah, they're surprisingly and consistently on point with Windows 10. So I have high hopes.
Are they on fleek with Windows 10? Is that no?
I'm sorry, I didn't. On fleek.
On fleek.
Is that French?
Ask someone younger than me.
All right.
That is it for the show. Thank you, Patrick Beja. You can find Patrick on Twitter, twitter.com/notpatrick. You can find all of his English language shows at FrenchSpin.com. What's coming up, brother?
Well, we're recording finally a new episode of the Phileas Club this coming Saturday, and it's been a couple of months, so I'm very eager to get back into that conversation. And, next week, at the time of this show, I'm going to be flying up in the air in a giant metal tube over the Atlantic, coming to Nerdtacular, where hopefully all of us will meet and have fun, and we'll record DTNS from there.
Yeah. Okay, so next week, just so you know, I will be out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for that contract job I took, but you'll be in good hands, DTNS listeners. Don't worry about that. Thursday, we'll be doing a headlines-only-ish show, probably from under a tree somewhere in Salt Lake City. And then Friday, we have our Salt Lake City Nerdtacular Supersize panel, where we'll have an extra long episode of Daily Tech News Show for you. So that is the plan next week, and Patrick Beja will be there. I'm so excited to see you in person, man. Can't wait.
Very excited.
DailyTechNewsShow.com/support is the place to go to keep the show going. We are powered by you and the value you get out of the show. So look into your heart and see if you have any resources to help us out. If you do, DailyTechNewsShow.com/support is the place to go. Big thanks to every single person who makes the show possible. We could not do it without you. And those of you who have stuck with us over these year and a half, you're amazing. I don't know what we'll ever do to thank you. We try to thank you by just doing the best show we possibly can every single day. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern at player.alphageekradio.com and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. Mr. Nerdtacular himself, Scott Johnson, on the show tomorrow. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Great show. What do we call it?
Oh, that's my job. Hold on.
I think we should call Scott Mr. Nerdtacular from now on.
Mr. Nerdtacular. He needs a top hat and a cane.
Nerdtacular. Hacking the parentheses car system. Very clever from Lily. Bad Apple Core. I don't know. Not to go off on a tangent, but can we all just take a chill pill about companies that earn billions and billions of dollars earning slightly less billions of dollars? I'm sorry. I'm done. Let's see.
It's not unreasonable to be hacked by anyone.
Yeah, that was pretty good. The mobile I like the mobile ineptinet. I like that a lot. Baby, you can hack my car is a really good one too.
That's good as well.
You connect me with hackers.
That's pretty great. Owned under a bad sign.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Everybody earns sometimes
some money.
Well, there's so many song ones.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but
all about
It's a very musical audience.
Container. No. Amazon. Oh, did my internet crap out?
Yeah,
it did.
only while you were singing.
Well, the internet is smart. Let me tell you.
It's like there's a filter, like copyright.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Just
Performance.
Shut it down. Yep. So let's see. Which one do we like?
Well,
Hack Cardinal Nation.
I don't want to brag,
Stop
but after my performance of the Tom Jones cover, the title jumped up significantly. Unfortunately, we can't have the title sung on the metadata of the MP3.
No, that is if we had more web development on mobile, we probably would be able to do that. Yeah, it's running away. I'm cool with that. I do like you connecting with hackers, though. I really like that. Well, I'm still levelating, so we can give it some time to cook. Get there. Showbot.tv. Go vote right now. You only got seconds.
Let's see. What else? Wait, where did Tom go?
I'm right here.
Oh, weird.
Whoa.
Your screen just went to black.
Sometimes Hangout does that to save bandwidth.
Oh,
It's
Hangout.
like Tom Merritt's face, way too much bandwidth. We don't need to show that. All those beard follicles. Oof.
So
What's up the bits?
let's see. So you want to hear my exciting news?
Oh, right. Yes.
Oh, we're still
It's not
live,
that
though.
exciting. It's really not that exciting. I formed a company.
Woo! When are your earnings reports?
Oh God, I'm trying to not start the company until January 1st because I'm like I don't like a mid-year thing. So we'll see. But I at least have one now. I have a company.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yay!
I'm actually going to start a company sometime soon as well.
I thought
Yeah.
you
And
had
I'm looking
one,
at Well, it's a different status. It's like individual person company. It's not
Oh,
a
I see. Gotcha.
full company. And I'm looking at the amount of taxes and things that you have to pay, and I'm crying a little bit on the inside and on the outside, to be honest.
Yeah.
Come to America. Live in
You
Texas.
know, I'm
Our
not
people.
I'm not 100% sure that it will be all that different.
Yeah.
Maybe it
all
would
right.
be. Maybe it would be.
Well,
but-
Texas it would be because Texas is different than California, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, I want Social Security. I'm not going to go,
We have Social Security.
right, but then you have to pay for it, and that
But
is
will
what
we?
costs a lot.
Oh, you want free Social Security? I see.
No, I have to pay for it if I'm the guy running the company.
Right.
Now
No,
I'm
I know. Payroll
understanding how
tax
much
is
it costs.
Talk to me about payroll tax. Woo. I'm going with it's not unreasonable to be hacked. It's running away with it. So can you tell us the name or no, Jenny?
Oh, yeah, sure. Infinite Gain Productions.
Infinite gain?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that's why you were bitter about the companies earning billions, but a little bit less billions.
It's
So
it's an
interesting that you
audio
would say that because it's an audio joke about infinite gain on microphones, and it's also a litmus test. So I immediately know who the person is by what they decide infinite.
Well, I'm in it for the money.
Right, like most French.
Yeah.
You're just a money-grubbing capitalist.
Yeah, actually, my version of infinite gain, high five there, web browser high five.
I was high-fiving Big Jim from the chat room, but
Well, you just high fived me because I can high five right back at you. No, it's also means instead of zero sum gain, infinite gain. That's my interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is.
Nice.
Now I've got a company.
So what do you do?
I produce things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a production company. We produce things. I almost made Matt out of sheer spite the treasurer, just because he hates talking and dealing in any way with money whatsoever. So I almost made him the treasurer. I was like, no, wait a second. Someday somebody might ask him actually to talk about numbers, and I was like, nope, never mind. So now
Yeah.
I made him the general manager because it was more like baseball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that seemed right.
But wait a second. Infinite gain?
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrible way to produce an audio show.
It just keeps getting loud.
But it's just so slow that you never notice. It just goes for a very
gradual.
long time.
Right.
I'm doing it's a mashup. Technically, the economics term is zero sum game
Right.
is the correct thing, but I like it as gain because it has an audio joke in it.
Because you wanted to make an audio joke. Gosh darn
Because I
it.
want to make an audio joke.
And I will make an audio joke if I want to. This
So in
is still
short-
America.
This isn't for economists. Get out of
Yeah.
the room.
So
Call in the audio
it also
engineers.
is a
They'll
good
get it.
litmus test because it identifies the economists,
Ah.
right?
Right. Because they will actually.
Because most people just say, "Oh yeah, sure, that sounds great," and then an economist would be like, "Excuse me, excuse me."
Excuse me.
Yeah. So that's my new plan.
Cool.
All right.
My litmus
new
test
plan is-
production company.
Infinite gain. Well,
Mm-hmm.
congratulations.
Yep.
That is big news. So how do people hire you?
It is big news. They can find me at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
You have a Jenny address.
I do Jenny, JENNIEJ at dailytechnewsshow.com. I think. I rarely use
I
it.
never actually spell it out. I just type J and then it comes up.
Yeah,
So.
it's an auto. It's an auto complete. I don't know what I would do without autocomplete, to be honest.
Autocomplete my life.
Uh-huh.
Right?
It'd
Am I
be
right?
funny if it was autocomplete my wife.
Now that's comedy.
It was right there. Sorry.
Uh,
It was all you
take
guys.
my wife. Autocomplete. Wait, what?
It was all your stupid puns and your stupid emails to Scott Johnson that did that.
I learned it from watching you, okay?
I learned it from watching you. Hey, Tom, one bit of serious business.
Yes. Yes.
I can do the video upload, download, but more like at 3:30 because I have to go meet a student.
I think that's fine.
Okay, I'll
If
tweet it,
people
Sean.
want to boost our Patreon up to $20,000 this second, then Jenny will make an exception and put the video up right away. Otherwise, it's going to be up later this afternoon.
Okay, which they won't see till later this afternoon because we just said it on the video.
Right?
I'll tweet
It's kind of a conundrum. I know.
Yeah, there's only one way
You
to
also
solve
have to have some sort of form of time travel. Well, unless they're watching live, I guess. But
That's true. Okay, then that's fine. I can do it right before class. I'm supposed to go meet a young lady.
oh, do tell.
for a consult.
A lady caller?
A lady student. Gonna go get iced tea.
It's a student. Okay.
So that'll be fun. And then I'm super excited. I've been very carefully planning out our meeting tomorrow. Been doing lots of internet research.
Ooh, is that a secret meeting?
No,
Why are you doing
we're going
research?
to because it's B Suite.
You're doing research on where we're going.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking like WordPress templates or the what?
I don't know. No, I just want to know what dessert is being consumed.
Oh yeah, no, they have specials. That's a good point.
I went to
Research.
the restaurant in Paris where you can get the best. Is it Florida? Have you seen House of Cards? Yes, of course you
Yes.
have. What is the style of ribs that Freddie makes?
Oh,
Florida or-
That's a good question.
I don't remember what style his
It
ribs
must
are.
be Georgia,
Is it?
because
Well, anyway.
Frank Underwood is from Georgia.
Okay. Well, I went to a restaurant that
Thought he was
does
from
them
Carolina.
like that in Paris, and that is delicious. I can tell you, if you ever have a chance, I don't know if they have those in your neck of the woods, in your giant country, but you should. They're very good.
We have a place that makes pretty good ribs. They're more Texas style, I guess, but they're really good over here on Washington.
You know, I think Texas would probably be good at making good ribs. So
St. Louis has world famous barbecue, but I don't like it. And it's anathema. And I grew up not thinking I liked barbecue very much because we'd have barbecue and we'd have St. Louis barbecue and it was very good St. Louis barbecue. And I'd be like, yeah, that's all right. Then I moved to Texas and I'm like, oh, this is the barbecue I like. This is barbecue. So it's one of those things. It's one of those rare exceptions to like what you grew up with. You tend to like better. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone I grew up with. I don't like St. Louis barbecue very much. And I don't like Kansas City barbecue, which is very similar. I like Texas barbecue, especially dry rub, no sauce. Give me that meat direct.
Tom is all about that meat. About that meat. No veggies.
sauce.
I gotta go meet aforementioned student in 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
In 3 minutes. I already put it off once, and now I'm.
that is being
be on
said
time.
in
You allowed
awfully
yourself
dramatic
no
fashion.
time.
No time.
There is no time left for you, as they
no,
say.
got no time.
Right. I'm actually out of the post, so let me just check this and make sure it's not dead.
I
All right.
am.
Well, I'm gonna go play some more Rocket League.
Good show, Patrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, chat room. You were amazing as always. And I will see you, some of the chat room, I hope, in person next week.
Absolutely.
And, everyone else as well. Bye.
Goodbye. Yeah, I am out of the post. Stay tuned for Night Attack this evening, coming up after 111 Ways to Hack Your Jeep.